cutting down a forest to put up solar panels is laughable to my children. When I said that we were going to come here and speak about, stand up and speak to the ridiculousness of this project, all I said was they're cutting down trees to put up solar panels, and they literally laughed out loud. Children understand that this is ridiculous. So I don't understand how adults are sitting here having these long, drawn-out conversations when it should be so obvious. I feel really emotional about it. Just walk into a forest and marvel at the way that the efficiency, the way that the trees and the plants occupy every single niche. We should be preserving the forest so that we can go in and learn how to live wisely with nature. We shouldn't be cutting down the forest and putting up solar panels in an effort to somehow sort of mitigate the amount of destruction that we're causing to the environment. It just really makes zero sense to me. And I understand that I'm rambling because I feel emotional about this, but really, on behalf of sanity, on behalf of children everywhere, who hopefully successive generations of humans will continue to live on this planet, but as long as we do short-sighted things as cutting down forests to put up solar panels, that is seriously in question. So on behalf of children and on behalf of trees, I heartily ask that you deny this project. I don't want to Thank you. Linda Redding.
Good evening, Linda Redding. Origis from the Republic of Cyprus was on the hunt for two things. They needed natural resources and officials who lacked the sophistication to recognize the value of those resources and protect them. With predatory practices similar to the cigarette and opioid industry, and despite the known risks, Origis is going to cut the heart out of our Nanjemoy forest. Well, I know we have conditions on Origis, but what if they fail? Well, I guess they have a male receptacle here in Maryland, and maybe one in Delaware, and probably one in Miami, but I guess we could go up to DC, right? To the embassy and go, hello, 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 Origis, or Republic of Cyprus, can you put us in touch with Origis? We're Charles County, Maryland. And they will go, Charles County, who? And that's the end of the knock-knock joke. We have no enforcement. We will never be at a loss for companies like Origis. There will always be those that are willing to destroy our natural resources for profit. And no one in this room, no one has the power to say there will not be any impacts from the stream crossing. There will be impacts, we know that, that's a fact. And one of the greatest impacts is the denuding of this landscape and the major excavation that's going to go on to create a different topography. In this time of climate crisis and extinction crisis, should we be wondering if we should destroy our forests and our streams? Please have the courage to protect our waters, and Origis should look for an alternative site. I know they are very proud of the deforestation. You can see it on their website. but that is not the way to go anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie Vick. Did she step outside?
Good, she left.
She's coming.
Thank you.
Shit.
Hello. My name is Bonnie Dick, and I live in Oxon Hill. And I'm here speaking for the second time on this issue because I am critically concerned about the state of Maryland permitting this in a time of climate crisis. I would like to see Maryland declare a climate crisis because it affects all of our future. And it's not, we don't actually know how much we can control this, even if we do 100% pivot. So that's what I'm recommending. And I'm very interested in there being a socioeconomic study, and I'd like that to be shared with the public because these are tier 2 streams, and the fact that they are in pristine nature really, to me, says that they should be saved, not given a chance to get less assimilative capacity. And the other point that I would like to make is that there should have been, and I haven't seen it and I've looked, an alternative study for this, because it's so clear that there are alternatives. If there weren't alternatives, we'd be in a real bind, because we have to be choosing between two different paths to address climate change. But we have a direct way of providing the solar without the environmental destruction. And so I'm just appalled that Georgetown hasn't released their study, and yet they have it. And they certainly led us to believe that they were going to share it with us when we met with them. And so I hope that the record remains open until we can comment on that study and put that study on the record. And I appreciate MDE's careful attention to this issue. It's critical, and it's our future symbolically. We can't stop some of the things that are happening in other faraway places, but this is in our territory, and it's a 34,000 acre forest that would be fragmented, and we have to save it. It's symbolic and it's real. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jan Russell and then Richard Cook.
Hello. Well, I live in Edgemore, and I've been there about 25 years.
Could you give us your,
I said I've been in Edgemore about 25 years.
okay, could you give us your name and Jan Russell?
Jan Russell.
Okay, thank you.
I'm also a nurse. I've been one for 40 years, all locally. I love this community. I love Southern Maryland. And the jewel of Southern Maryland is in Edgemore. And what we need on it is that it stays as beautiful as it is, and that it's used to teach our children and entertain ourselves on weekends, stay sane when life is too busy. This debate about solar farms is going on all across the country. It's not new. I know in places like Iowa, what they're opting to do is ask farmers that have parcels that aren't as productive to put like 15-acre pieces. 250 acres at a time is a big swath of trees, wildlife. It's just too much. It's unthinkable. To me, it's unbearable. I hope that they would look at the science of it, but more than that, it's the ethics of it, the morals of it. This is what we have down here it could be an engine for economic opportunity. We've done many proposals for Dangemoy and its ecotourism. It's foolish. So I'm asking you to think about it. Thank you.
Good evening. Dr. Richard Cook, Hughesville, Maryland resident, president of the Charles County Medical Society. Thank you for having me speak here. I'd like to start out with a study done by the Maryland Department of Natural Resources in 2017 that talks about Charles County having the 4th highest total ecosystem services in the state, which equals to approximately $290 per month for every citizen, or $535.5 million per year. That equals 1/8 of Charles County's total economy. So how and what are ecosystem services? I'm sure you know, but I'd like to educate some of the people here today. Basically, in ecosystem services, any monetary or non-monetary benefit people receive from their environment. And so when these ecosystem services are lost, they have to be replaced with pricey, man-made restorative alternatives. And this, of course, is at the taxpayer's expense. And again, we're talking about 1/8 of Charles County's economy. And if not replaced, we suffer consequences of these of this climate catastrophe, which is flooding, poor air quality, water quality, increased in health disease, tick arthropod vector disease, etc., which again, we end up paying for. I'd also like to point out that when you look at the gold standard for climate expert recommendations, you tend to look at the UN recommendation, the Paris Climate Accord agreements, the Marrakesh climate change agreements, the World Meteorological Organization recommendations, and in none of their vast literature do they say anything remotely close to tearing down forests to put up solar panels. They are all for sustainable alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was everyone who was at the February 27th hearing, who did not get a chance to speak that night, and then people who were not at that hearing, but this was the first hearing they came to, and then we had a few people that have spoken at both hearings. Before we close, though, I'd like to offer anyone an opportunity who has changed their mind since they signed in and would now like to make a comment for the record. You don't have to, and I will next tell you how you can submit written comments, but... Can I add something? Yes, and before you add something, is there anyone else who hasn't had a chance to speak that would now like to speak? Come on, Jack. If you would, we're not going to be able to capture what you say unless you speak into the mic. And if you could remind me of your name again, please.
Yes, my name is Carrie Roh, R-O-H-A-N, and I would just like to add that in my hometown of Rockville, which is quite close to Georgetown University, there are numerous very large expanses of property, including industrial, including the derelict White Flint Mall, just many places of developed, impermeable surface that seem absolutely perfect for solar panels. There is actually one area that I was made aware of just last week, basically just north of my house, that is an industrial area where the owner has been looking to find an alternative use for the property. So I would just like to mention that there are many, many locations that Georgetown could consider instead of this pristine wildland. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who hasn't had a chance to speak tonight that would like to make a comment? Sorry? Could you speak into the mic, please?
The person who was on the list for the first hearing on February 27th has submitted to me something that I can say on their behalf.
Okay, could you speak into the mic and could you give me the person's name, please?
Netivot Mokwena.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Why is my clock running? No, okay, go ahead. My name is Netivot Mokwena, and I grew up in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I cannot be here today, but I would like to adamantly oppose permitting for the Nanchimo deforestation project. The land where Origis and Georgetown University plans to build the solar farm are on stolen Piscataway ancestral homelands. It's infuriating and vile that neither Origis or the university did not do proper stakeholder engagement by consulting Piscataway leadership. While I am a strong supporter of renewable energy, the industry cannot replicate the same extractivist model of the fossil fuel industry. If Georgetown would like to support a clean future, it should not seek to do so by deforestation and destruction of native lands. Thank you.
Thank you.